The views and opinions expressed on this program are those of the guests appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of 8 News Now or Nexstar Media Group.
Judging the Judges, a new survey on how people on the bench are doing, with one judge's low score standing out. Out-of-country junkets, we look at some international trips. Attorney General Aaron Ford took on a third-party group's dime. And leaving a fortune, the 8 News Now investigators dig into the controversy over billionaire Tony Hsieh's will.
You're watching Politics Now with John Langler on 8 News Now.
Thanks for joining us. I'm Joshua Peguero. John is off this week. The Judging the Judge results are out for the first time since 2019. UNLV does a survey and it's published in the Review Journal. It can be a very useful resource come election time. We talked with Bradley Moreno, the director of the UNLV Center for Research, Evaluation and Assessment, about the results. So there were 5 judges that appeared in the negative, in the red, when it comes to retention. How does that stack up to previous surveys?
Yeah, actually there were fewer this year. So kind of our threshold, our benchmark was if you were below 50%, meaning 50% of the attorneys that appeared in your courtroom and took the performance evaluation did not recommend retention, or recommended retention. So there were 5. The prior survey year in 2019, there were 11. So again, I think overall this is good news in a time where the judiciary is kind of under scrutiny at the national level, polarized politically. Overall, Clark County attorneys rated our judiciary very favorably.
For the one who got the least number of the lowest percentage when it came to retention was Clark County District Court Judge Erica Ballou. I think it was at around 32% or 33%. What were some of the responses that attorneys were giving you when it came to her?
Yeah, Erica Ballou, this survey went out in July, so this was prior to the kind of her suspension. And so across all indicators, legal ability, integrity, and administrative ability, one of the lowest judges in the survey received the lowest retention percentage. And then we actually sent up a follow-up survey that allowed Clark County attorneys to weigh in qualitatively and just share some comments and reflections. And across the board, those comments that we received about professional behavior in the courtroom and all of that were fairly negative. And so when you see a judge like that, where retention is below 50%, and then qualitatively, almost all of the attorneys that rated did not have great things to say, that's probably a fairly strong indication that retention is not warranted in those circumstances.
How much do you weigh that? Oftentimes, there could be an adversarial relationship that exists between a judge and a defense attorney. Yeah,
there could be, and that's one of the weaknesses of this type of judicial performance evaluation. There are other criteria that can be applied, like you can survey staff members or you can do some courtroom observations. Those tend to be very expensive and time-consuming, so they're not a part of this judicial evaluation. And that's why I tend not to put a lot of stock in small differences in scoring, because there could be a few attorneys that maybe have some bias there. But when you start to see scores that are very, very low or even very, very high, that to me is a fairly strong signal, notwithstanding the potential for bias.
Now, during an election cycle, oftentimes people in the public here in Clark County don't know who these judges are, and they tend to Google, and this survey might come up. What sort of impact do you gather that this has had when it comes to elections?
Well, you're right. So not all states elect judges like we do. We have an elected judiciary, and with 101 judges up for election, that's a lot of information to sort through. And so I think the very concise way in which the Las Vegas Review-Journal presents this information on their website should be one point of information. Not the only one for sure, but it's overwhelming to try to elect that many judges all at once from a public standpoint. If I was using this report and the information on the Review Journal website, I would look at those judges that have those retention scores around 50-ish%, and I would give a strong look into why there's news articles out there about these judges and justices. They can inform themselves that way and really figure out, hey, maybe it's time to make a change. Take a look at who's running against them. So I would do your homework on those judges and justices that score very, very low. And then I think we should remark that there are also judges and justices, one in particular that scored around 98% in terms of a retention score. That's phenomenal. And so I think we should also applaud and recognize those judges and justices that are doing very, very well, according to Clark County attorneys.
Judge Erica Ballou is still suspended by the Judicial Ethics Commission. It can be lowered to 6 months if she completes a list of requirements the commission has set out. Another suspended judge, Michelle Fiore, is asking to speed up her appeal process. Fiore was suspended from her job as a judge in Pahrump by the Commission of Judicial Ethics. A federal court found her guilty of stealing from a charity raising money to build a statue for a police officer that was murdered. President Donald Trump pardoned her in April, but she is still suspended by the state. Fiore is appealing the suspension and is asking the state Supreme Court to speed up the process. She is up for re-election in 2026. It's a debate happening now, 5 years after the former Zappos CEO Tony Hsieh's death. For years, we reported Tony Hsieh had no will. That's until one showed up in the mail. Only on 8 Tonight, investigator David Charnes covering Hsieh's legacy and death with the latest twist.
Tony Hsieh is, of course, credited for revitalizing downtown Las Vegas, and for years, we told you no will existed. But that all changed when one showed up in the mail.
A lot of the motivations around Tony, in the end, became about money.
They're motivations surrounding entrepreneur Tony Hsieh's life that are following him well into his death.
I think everybody would love to move forward.
Moving forward 5 years after the former Zappos CEO died, and for friends like Tyler Williams,
It'd just be nice if people would move on and not continue to try to get access to the wealth.
It's about both moving on and protecting a friend from eager beneficiaries circling above.
We need help as soon as possible. Someone's locked in a room with a fire.
The question about what happens to all that wealth igniting in November 2020. A fire in this Connecticut home badly burned the downtown visionary. By then, Tony Hsieh was in and out of rehab, battling an addiction to ketamine and then nitrous oxide, also called whippets. Hsieh ultimately died from those injuries, leading his estimated $800 million estate to enter probate court, since at that point, the entrepreneur had no will. In all those years you knew him, did he ever talk about a will?
No, never.
Williams never heard or saw a will, but that changed earlier this year when this document appeared in the belongings of a Pakistani man, a family member of Pir Mohammed, a man believed to be in his 90s, saying they found the will in a stack of documents. That will appears to show Hsieh's signature, along with Mohammed's and several other men. The documents say Mohammed himself died years ago.
It's all really strange. I don't know how else to put it, except it feels like it's dramatized, like movie material.
Fit for the movies, because no one can find the witnesses who signed the will. The document is dated March 2015, a time when Hsieh was living in close quarters alongside Williams in a village full of Airstream trailers.
Tony was a communal person that had people around him all the time. So you sneak the execution of a will with a lawyer that nobody's ever heard of inside of the community. We can't find anybody that knows who it is. Nobody knows who these witnesses are.
And no one can find a record of them where they say they lived. According to documents the 8 News Now investigators obtained, management companies for 2 of the witnesses who say they lived in these buildings on Maryland Parkway and Harmon Ave have no record of them ever living there. A website listed for Muhammad, the man with the will in the first place, shows no sign of ever existing, and no person with a phone number or email listed on that will has ever responded to the 8 News Now investigators' attempts at any contact. Doesn't that show that this is leading in the direction that this might be fake.
Yeah, right. I mean, it should be pretty easy to contact or identify people.
Shane Young is an estate attorney.
So up to this point, they haven't been able to prove whether it's authentic. It definitely throws a wrench into the process.
Young expects the judge overseeing the case to request Hsieh's friends, even handwriting experts, to come forward to prove the document's legitimacy. She equates the process to what happened to the late singer Aretha Franklin, her handwritten will found in a notebook in a couch cushion, a jury ultimately deeming it adequate.
I don't see the judge rushing to make a ruling either way, and so I'm looking to see, hopefully, within the next few months, that this comes to a resolution.
It just feels very odd and strange.
Odd and strange for Williams, who says he expects those who signed the will, if they even exist, to make themselves known, knowing just whose will they were witnessing.
I would never put it past Tony to do anything because he was a unique and interesting person.
Attorneys for the Hsieh estate are trying to prove that the will is not legitimate so they can move forward with their plans as the estate holders. Meantime, that judge is expected to hear more about all this coming up in just a couple of weeks in January. In downtown Las Vegas, I'm David Sharns, 8 News Now.
Now, Thanksgiving marked 5 years since Hsieh's death, and Friday would have been his 52nd birthday. Nevada will have one of the most hotly contested races for governor in the country, and we will keep you informed about the important issues in the race. It features incumbent Republican Joe Lombardo and Democratic frontrunner Attorney General Aaron Ford. Lombardo's team has been focused on the travel schedule of Ford, and you can expect that to be something you hear about for the next year. So we took a look.
Ford's annual finance disclosures since 2020 include out-of-country trips paid for by a third party called the Attorney General Alliance. In total, the international trips cost just over $110,000. The Attorney General Alliance's website calls itself a bipartisan forum where attorneys general work in cooperation to share ideas, build relationships, and foster enforcement through meetings, panels, working groups, and social activities. In 2024, they paid for trips to Macau, China, Singapore, Normandy, France, and Tulum, Mexico. During the Mexico trip, Ford also recorded a campaign finance expense for $2,800 at Secrets Puerto Los Cabos, a golf and spa resort. Also in 2024, a trip to Taipei, Taiwan, paid for by the National Association of Attorneys Generals. In 2023, the AGA paid for trips to South Africa, Poland, Israel, and South Korea. In 2022, Madrid and Barcelona, Spain, Doha, Qatar in 2021, and Ghana in 2020.
Ford's campaign says no public money was used on the trips. He is on the board of both organizations. A spokesperson telling us most of them dealt with different types of trafficking from the countries they were in, saying those bipartisan groups bring states' attorneys general together to tackle challenges that go beyond state lines. Labor and sex trafficking, fentanyl and wildlife trafficking, cybercrime, environmental threats, social media matters, opioids, and many more important topics. They also said the golf course spa was for a meeting with the Mexican Attorney General on official business. A PAC associated with Republican Governor Joe Lombardo saying in part, Aaron Ford has made a mockery of public service, vacationing on the dime of special interests and donors instead of doing his job. Close to closing. Up next, I look at a troubled charter school, why Nevada Prep may not get its license renewed. And we look at a new report on anti-Semitism in our university system.
Welcome back to Politics Now.
UNLV turning down a request from Elon Musk's The Boring Company to build a tunnel under the university. The Boring Company wanted to add a station at UNLV as part of their Vegas loop, but UNLV cited a couple reasons, including being worried that Thomas and Mack would become a sort of airport parking lot. However, UNLV did agree to sell a portion of the parking lot near Thomas and Mack to The Boring Company, where the tunnel heading to the airport would go. A report card is out grading universities and colleges on how they're dealing with anti-Semitism. It comes as the Trump administration is investigating several institutions, including UNLV, over the treatment of Jewish students. I talked with an Israeli diplomat on a tour of the Southwest who stopped at universities to find out what they were doing to protect students.
When I met with the Jewish students here in Vegas and also just in Southern Nevada, one of their concerns was that there is a lot of misinformation.
Yael Aini says universities here, including UNLV, have done well in not allowing protests to escalate. For one, they have banned encampments.
Every democracy should have freedom of speech and freedom of protest. But when it can threaten the well-being of students, when it can alienate and isolate specific minorities within campus, I feel like the universities here have made the right call.
Last year, several pro-Palestinian students were captured on video storming into a visiting Israeli professor's classroom at UNLV. His lecture was about black holes. That incident helped push the Trump administration into investigating UNLV for civil rights violations tied to anti-Semitism.
If you really want to have a dialogue and if you really want to learn and educate yourself, you cannot do it by shouting and disrupting.
Aini says schools must step up through deliberate education efforts to root out anti-Semitism.
I witnessed how UNLV has changed its policies and reformed, and it's really thanks to great leadership.
The new report from Stop Anti-Semitism doesn't list UNLV, but the school tells me it is cooperating with the DOJ's investigation and looks forward to a thorough and fair compliance review. The state is taking steps to close a Las Vegas charter school plagued with financial problems. The agency that oversees charter schools says Nevada Prep has experienced a significant decline in test scores. It's a kindergarten through 8th grade charter school with about 416 students, serving mostly Title I kids.
In this action memorandum, the State Public Charter School Authority outlines why Nevada Prep should not get its license renewed, which puts the school into closure. The agency accused Nevada Prep of experiencing a significant and sustained decline in academic performance over the past 2 years. Nevada Prep's elementary and middle schools went from a 3-star rating to currently 1 star. This year, the elementary school placed in the lowest 5th percentile of statewide performance. Officials at Nevada Prep spoke at a state meeting in October to defend themselves and their budget.
I can confirm to you there's been no deterioration at all in this school's financial info. The financial performance of this school is stellar.
But the state doesn't see it that way. More than $1 million are owed reportedly to vendors. According to the Charter School Authority, an audit of Nevada Prep showed no meaningful reduction in total liabilities, which were $17.6 million in fiscal year 2023 and $19 million in both 2024 and 2025 fiscal years. The agency calls the debt potentially destabilizing. Nevada Prep says it's working on reducing the debt, but needs more time.
The school is burdened with the past debts of the prior administrations. The debt structure is improving. We are paying off vendors. We are paying off old debts.
The State Public Charter School Authority also says it's not clear if Nevada Prep is providing meals and snacks to students because it owes money to the Nevada Department of Agriculture. Nevada Prep could close by next June. Healthcare up in the air. The latest on a potential vote on extending ACA tax credits as members of Congress continue to butt heads. And a move towards affordable housing, how local governments are trying to unite Southern Nevadan homeowners through a trust.
You're watching Politics Now.
The Senate rejected 2 rival plans to lower healthcare costs this week. That includes a failed vote on extending tax credits linked to the Affordable Care Act. Kristen Esco reports with what this means as the clock ticks on Obamacare credits.
Millions of Americans are staring down skyrocketing health care costs in just weeks. On Thursday, neither of the Senate plans to address the issue received the 60 votes needed to advance. Democrats introduced a 3-year extension of tax credits for people who receive health care coverage through the Affordable Care Act marketplaces.
Our vote had a majority and was bipartisan.
As an alternative, Republicans proposed health savings accounts for Americans with bronze or catastrophic ACA plans. West Virginia Senator Shelley Moore Capito acknowledged Congress still needs to take action on health care.
the problem's still there and we haven't helped anybody.
Capito, the number 4 Senate Republican, told me the Senate may consider a temporary solution next week.
There may be some kind of a stopgap, small extension of some sort to be able to carry people over. I don't think this will be the end of the issue.
At the White House, Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt says President Trump will share his ideas very soon.
The president and Republicans are currently coming up with creative solutions and ideas to lower health care costs for the American people.
Lawmakers are trying to force a vote on a bipartisan bill to extend the tax credits for 2 years with new income eligibility caps. Several moderate Republicans and Democrats already signed a discharge petition. Clark County leaders marking a milestone in affordable housing with the groundbreaking of the county's first ever community land trust development. The program is designed to keep homes attainable for first-time buyers by utilizing a new model in which homeowners lease the land from the county, who retain ownership rights. The house itself, as well as any improvements to the land, will be the property of the homeowner. Clark County Commissioner Marilyn Kirkpatrick speaking on the potential beneficiaries of the new trust.
That's your teachers, your nurses, that's your person that picks up your trash, that delivers your newspaper. That's all of those folks that are working every day that deserve to have ownership.
About 250 homes are under construction for this purpose, with households earning between $50,000 and $95,000 per year as the target. Next on Politics Now, Allegiant Stadium is given a top honor.
Welcome back to Politics Now.
Billboard magazine naming Allegiant Stadium the highest grossing in the U.S. and number 2 in the world. The home of the Raiders says it has netted more than $1 billion in economic impact over the last year. That includes more than $250 million in revenue from concerts like Shakira, Kendrick Lamar, Paul McCartney, and Beyonce. The number 1 stadium is Estadio GNP Seguros in Mexico City. Thank you for watching Politics Now. You can stay up to date on 8newsnow.com and catch us right here every Saturday night. Have a good night.